So with that, what I would like to do now is introduce our first presenter. He is Will Judge from Mastercard. He's been working on leading connected car at Mastercard and connected car commerce. And Mastercard has been engaged with quite a few different automotive companies in the automotive ecosystem, including companies like GM, Here, Honda, SoundHound, Sonic, and White Castle. And Will is going to be discussing and presenting the latest work that they've been doing around EV and fuel transactions. And I will turn it over to Will.
Great, thanks, John. And good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm hoping that someone can give me the slides that I uploaded earlier. That's possible. If not, I may have to, can I run it from my own desktop? What do you think, John?
Let me see if I can find out in Swapcard here. Yeah, we're just waiting on slides here. But if they don't have slides, then maybe we can kind of move forward without them.
All right, sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to tell the story. So let's start with an overview of me and my role at Mastercard, and a couple of basic beliefs. So we can probably do those verbally without the need for charts. So I'm Will Judge. I'm in the Global Enterprise Partnerships team at Mastercard. I happen to be based in the UK, but the team I work in supports the company worldwide. I am primarily charged with trying to stand up and accelerate activity in all our regions around the subject of connected car commerce, and also the subject of the sphere of transactions that relate potentially to the operation of cars, both in general terms, in terms of energizing them, and also more specifically vehicles and cars in urban areas. I roll up under the Global Cities team at the moment, and so questions like the future of urban parking, questions like the likelihood of future road pricing in the world cities, and this sort of thing, form a fascinating innovation agenda for us to talk not just to merchants and providers, but also to public policymakers, mayors, governments, and so forth. And so by virtue of that mandate, I am becoming a focal point within the company for all our work partnering with partners outside Mastercard on the subject of connected car commerce. Increasingly, we've been putting together our properly refined strategy and internal perspective on the subject of in-vehicle payments. Broadly, I am bullish on the subject. There are those I know, both inside Mastercard and out, who have repeatedly posed the question, why can't people just pay with a phone? Why does it have to be in the car? Well, I happen to support the view of the several external research reporters who have published quite compelling looking growth curves in the number of predicted in-vehicle payments for the coming years. I do have one I hope to show you on the slides, and we get those up, then we can do that. But it's worth just maybe reflecting why the car might be better than the phone. And I think there are a number of reasons that we've identified and are zeroing in on in our thinking about this subject as to why we think there is going to be a meaningful difference between a car-initiated and a device-initiated payment, and why for many use cases the car-initiated payment might be the one that actually ends up being preferred by the owner or the driver, the person initiating the transaction from in the vehicle. Some of those include the need for immediate fulfillment, especially where what you're buying is a temporary capability or service upgrade from the manufacturer himself. There are other futures involving machine-to-machine interactions where actually the buyer will step outside the process of brokering and agreeing price for services. And actually the car and some external installation will itself broker that interaction and agree price. So there's just a couple of thoughts as to why this subject is one that will grow through time. That we're quite sure. We could also make note of the fact that from the manufacturer's perspective, they do have the opportunity and probably a commercial imperative to continue to sustain their position as the designer of the in-vehicle experience. And I think to do that, whilst relying on third-party providers of different types of connected device, which of course are going to be chosen by the consumer, not provided with the vehicle, injects a degree of unpredictability and fragmentation. And so merely just in pursuit of the right digital experience that aligns with the brand promise of the manufacturer, making sure that the car is the entity that can contract will be an important part of the story. And Mastercard, of course, stands ready to support every actor in the ecosystem that wants to invest time and energy in investing in creating digital experience of this type. Mastercard's purpose is to support the best, safest, secure transactions for the widest number of participants in the economy, and to do so in ways that allow the most pleasant and most sophisticated and slickest digital experiences. And we see lots of opportunities to work with you all on this subject. We bring a portfolio of capabilities to it on the core payment side, with 2.8 billion cards out there and a world-class network tokenization infrastructure in place. We can deliver digitized card payments into the car environment. And we have a lot of other services around that, around transaction processing to accept those payments. Maybe if you want to overlay loyalty and rewards, we stand ready to do that. Mastercard is investing heavily in account-to-account transfer infrastructure as well. And we anticipate being able to replicate those same capabilities on an account-to-account transfer infrastructure, which leads us into the world of open banking. And it's fascinating to think about how open banking and automotive might intersect in the future. And then we're broadening out into areas like smart device authentication, cybersecurity, and identity. So I would welcome the chance to speak with you all about how we might contribute to your projects and build this going forward. But the real story we wanted to share with the group today was the story behind one of our early exploratory investments in this space, which was an investment we made in January 2020 in a German company called ThinksNet, which operates a fuel payment platform in Germany called RidePay. Now, there are many merchants who have implemented in-app payments for fuel in the past. I happen to make quite frequent use of two of them in the UK, Shell and BP, but I know in other markets, companies like P97 have done a lot of work to enable merchants to create a mobile app with which a rider can interact with the fuel provisioning infrastructure. So why would Mastercard choose to invest in one company last year in a space? What might make that different? Well, what we thought was interesting about RidePay was that it was explicitly an open platform. It sought to do the detailed integration work with the providers of forecourt and cashier systems to allow an open platform in which multiple merchants could sign up and connect, and which would then partner with multiple digital providers to reach the largest possible number of riders. And this feels to us to be very much in line with Mastercard's general philosophy of openness and trying to create working multi-sided marketplaces with the largest possible number of participants. So we agreed to invest a small amount of money in January, and we, as part of that investment, we took on a role to provide a pan-European transaction processing capability to RidePay that would allow them to move beyond their core German market to a European wide position and enable them to access up to 10 adjacent markets over the coming years. So very much with a strong growth agenda. The basic premise of RidePay is that it acts as a reseller of the fuel. So the fuel merchants will sign up to the platform and will agree a commercial agreement with RidePay that allows them to sell fuel on behalf of the merchant. RidePay bears the costs of integrating with that merchant's forecourt control systems and cashier systems. And once that is done, participants in RidePay from the consumer side who have set up a profile and lodged a payment card can find participating fuel stations on the map. At the moment, there are 900 stations across Germany, and all of those are displayed onto the map, whichever app the buyer might choose to use. So Ride has its own app, but actually most of the transactions at the moment are being originated in what's called Bertha. Now, Bertha is Mercedes-Benz generic fuel price discovery app for Germany, and tens of thousands of people, whether they drive a Mercedes or not, have Bertha on their phone and will use it to locate nearby fuel stations when they need to refuel and to do some form of basic price comparison. Where they choose a participating station in the RidePay platform, they can use Bertha to transact directly through the same interface. And the Ride team have been investing a lot of time in signing up a multiplicity of other channels to buyers. They're teaming up with navigation apps like Here, supermarkets like Lidl, providers of automotive insurance like AXA, and AXA actually invested in Ride's Swiss subsidiary for this very purpose. And the clever thing about the RidePay functionality is that when the phone is located through the GPS and geolocation functionality in a participating station forecourt, the RidePay functionality prompts the holder of the device to nominate a pump, and Ride can then remotely unlock the pump from its central platform. Whichever merchant is involved dispense fueling, and the payment to the RidePay company, ThinksNet, is then made by the rider using a regular card on file transaction, and Ride then settles up at a net basis with the fuel merchants thereafter. So an open platform and a geolocation and map-based approach. We thought this was quite interesting. And we've been working with Ride for a year. But I must say at this stage, what you might be asking yourself is, why is Will telling me all this at an in-vehicle payment seminar? Well, the reason is that as well as having an operational service live with a number of third-party app providers, Ride has also been in deep talks with the team at Mercedes around integrating the Mercedes in-car dashboard suite, MBUX, with the RidePay platform for this purpose. And this resulted in the launch on March the 13th of Mercedes-Benz Fuel and Pay. Now, Mercedes-Benz Fuel and Pay is the Ride functionality offered to Mercedes owners through the Mercedes Me portfolio of digital services. If you buy a Mercedes, you get access to a Mercedes Me Connect app, which has all the regular functionality. But your driver profile on Mercedes Me is also reflected in the vehicle. And so those drivers who associate their profile with their car and activate the full functionality can now activate RidePay transactions directly from the dashboard in their Mercedes. This was an update that was released over the air in March. The Mercedes team tell us that roughly 400,000 Mercedes were out in the existing stock of vehicles in the German market and received this upgrade over the air. And this functionality is now standard in new vehicles being sold at Mercedes dealerships in that part of Europe. The functionality is really primarily driven by the navigation system in the MBUX software suite. And when the vehicle detects that it is parked within the geofence of a forecourt, it will prompt the driver as to whether it wants to start the automated fuel and pay process. The driver simply assents to this and nominates the pump that they are parked by and wish to dispense from. And with that input, the RidePay platform unlocks the pump remotely and allows the driver to fill up. Once the fueling has been completed, the driver can drive away because the payment is made using a payment credential that's part of their Mercedes driver portfolio. Mercedes Pay passes that across to RidePay, and RidePay contracts against that for the fuel that's been dispensed. The payments types among you will be asking, what about authentication? Well, this is a merchant-initiated transaction, so there's no need to do any of the strong customer authentication tasks like deliver a one-time password as part of that experience. And it really delivers what the RidePay team sought to achieve most of all, which was that for those drivers who wish to pull up fuel and drive on because they're pressed for time and they don't need any other sundry purchases at the gas station, they've really optimized the experience and the payment to achieve that. The vehicle spends the minimum possible time static at the pump and the maximum possible time progressing with the journey. And so I think that initiative really marks the start of RidePay's growth into the world of in-vehicle payments. When I think about the company's growth ambitions in Europe, certainly we've mentioned entering new markets, and we expect RidePay to be live in Spain and Portugal, Poland, and certainly at least 2 other large European markets later this year, as well as the Benelux countries. So it's becoming a European platform for fuel payments. The company is investing a lot of resource to add many more fuel merchants, about 900 at the moment, but that figure will be closer to 5,000 by the year end in Germany. And looking to add several more digital partners for in-app integrations. But perhaps of most interest to this group might be that they want more OEM partners to engage with them on doing a similar integration around fuel and pay, to really make this RidePay a multi-merchant and multi-OEM platform for in-vehicle payments for fuel in Europe. And should this be of interest to you or to your customer, and you would like to discuss with the RidePay team about integrating into a digital experience for vehicles sold in Europe, then please do get in touch with me, and I'd be delighted to make the necessary introductions. Looking into the future, of course, fuel payments are only one class of payments that's relevant, but we recognize that actually the basic underlying payments infrastructure of a credential lodged in the driver profile and a central platform connected to a PSP that can process transactions wherever they're made is a standardized architecture that supports transactions in all segments. And so the team are looking for opportunities to expand the functionality of RidePay into markets like tolling, parking, EV charging, will come as no surprise here, and also quick serve restaurants, valet, and other repair and maintenance services. So, what can we conclude from all this? Well, it's early days for fuel and pay. We're very hopeful that Mercedes will build up a strong proportion of their owners who make use of this functionality and deliver really meaningful volumes of transactions from the Mercedes fleet in Germany and elsewhere. The platform is an open one and has demonstrably been successful in attracting competitors in the small to medium end of the fuel market. So lots of the lesser well-known brands. I think the acid test for RidePay will be, can it attract one or more of the big pan-European brands to the platform? And the company is working hard at doing this. Or will it end up being a place where the smaller players congregate together to match the technology investments that the big merchants can make on their own? So I think that's sort of ecosystem question number one. It'll be fascinating to see how the fuel market plays out on this. The second question really is the nature of the platform. It seems to me it might be a Goldilocks in the sense that it's broad enough to attract meaningful numbers of players and transactions, but specialized enough to be fit for purpose. And by that, I mean, the RidePay team has industry experts who are deeply familiar with forecourt control systems and cashier control systems, and have coded the platform to really take specific account of the unique nature of those interactions. It's not clear that a platform that's coded with that in mind is a straightforward match for a parking situation or maybe a tolling situation. So what we'll learn in the coming year is, can platforms like this be extended and adapted to serve multiple segments straightforwardly? Or actually are the industry complexities of each one and the information differences in each one large enough that it makes it difficult or uneconomic to scale out? Third remark concerns the user experience. I remember sitting in Munich airport, reviewing what we'd heard over a beer when we were in the early stages of our discussions with ThinkSnet. And he made a remark that stuck me, which was, it's not an app store, it's a map store. Not an app store, it's a map store. And what he meant by that was the organizing idea for how you present information about how to buy to the driver is not a series of merchant branded icons. We've all become so used to iOS and Android environments where the icons are presented in neat rows with their own colorful designs. But actually, the intention of the in-vehicle experience was to deliver a payment transaction functionality as and when the driver wanted to fill up. And so the experience is navigation led. The first part of the problem is, where is the nearest station where I can pay? And only once you arrive there does the payment process kick in. And I do wonder if for those of you who think about the design of experiences in the dashboard, whether that's an organizing principle that might be useful. And then the last one was just a note that the whole thing is location led. It is primarily driven by the RidePay platform receiving indications either from the phone or from the vehicle directly that it is on the forecourt through some combination of GPS and other supporting location technologies. There's actually no proximity technology or interface linking the car and the forecourt directly. Others in the space have tried things like installing Bluetooth beacons or license plate recognition. In the case of RidePay, there's no need for any of that, which obviously makes it more attractive for the fuel merchants to participate. But the thought is this really something that is a general conclusion we can draw about connected vehicle payments? Do we actually need proximity interfaces like EasyPass, tag and beacon units anymore? Or if we do, what's the incremental value that they bring above and beyond a simple connected car reporting its location in real time? And that might be an interesting subject that we could debate as the work of Geneva goes forward. But I'll draw my remarks to a close there, and I welcome questions, not least from John and anyone else who's been listening.
Great, thank you, Will. We do have one question from the audience, and then we're going to actually continue on to a fireside chat to include Nicholas Gillanderum from Volvo. So the one question that we have here is from Sandeep. He asks about how do you see variability playing into the picture? So by variability, he means, in the case of someone not owning the vehicle or if the vehicle gets stolen, what, in the use case that you shared, what are some of those, how do you see that playing into that?
Well, I think the critical thing will be the extent to which the vehicle can be protected against some of those adverse scenarios. Implicit in the design of what Mercedes have built is the notion that the driver is recognized and the experience is personalized. That is to say that when the driver starts the journey, the driver profile is activated within the car. I must say it's not a subject I've looked into deeply. It is a very interesting one. But if we assume that somehow the vehicle has protections against the profile being maintained in the event that there's a theft event, or if there's a normal transfer of driver identity, as I don't know, one spouse hands over to the other, or a friend is given the keys and invited to drive, as long as that driver profile change is recognized, then Mercedes Pay won't ship the wrong payment credential to RidePay for a transaction. So the source of the credential is the driver profile, and it's shared with RidePay when needed.
Great. Well, and I think if your car's stolen, you have bigger problems, right?
Well, there you go. There you go.
Okay, great. Let's get
these things are important to design out if we can, right?
Yes.